Welcome to my Introduction to Networking course, typically abbreviated ITN. This will be for the CCNA version 7 curriculum. Hello and welcome to my lab 10.1.4, configuring the initial router settings. We have three objectives: verifying the default route, configuring the initial router configuration, and then saving everything. Read the background. Basically, we're going to be performing basic router configuration tasks. We're going to secure access to the command line and console ports using encrypted and plain text passwords. We're going to configure the message of the day, a banner, when you log into the router and whatnot. I am using Packet Tracer 8.2.2. So if you want to adjust the screen, you can. I'm looking at the completion rate. Right now it is showing 0. And we're going to work through each of the tasks. So, task 1, verify the default router configuration. So we're going to establish a console connection between PCA and router 1. Meaning I'm going to go down here, click on the lightning bolt. I am not using the auto cable. I know that a console cable is a sky blue. One side will go on the PC. That would be the serial or DB9 port, sometimes called a RS-232. And the other end will go on the router, on the console port. 20% complete just by plugging in the right cable. If you do the auto cable, sometimes the auto cable, no, this one doesn't even allow us to do the auto cable, but if you did the auto cable, it sometimes chooses the wrong cable, and I wanted to point that out. But here we can't. Alright, we've done console cable, PCA, RS-232, router. Now let's get into our terminal. So we're going to click on PCA, go to the desktop, and go to terminal. These are the default settings that are commonly used, so you don't have to really worry about them. You know, if we're talking 2000, 2021, or 2001, then that'd be one thing, but we don't have to worry about that as much anymore. But again, you still normally want to verify them. If you are connecting to something strange via serial, you do always want to check at least the bits per second, because some devices, if they are using serial, might be a different speed. So do definitely keep that in mind. Alright, we'll connect. Ooh, I do not want to maximize this. I need the instructions. Alright, I'm going to tap enter a few times. Alright, I am now at my router, but I'm at a user mode. So it says you're now able to configure R1. If we do a question mark, we can see what we can do at this level. We can do a session, we can do a connect, a disable, a disconnect, an enable. You can keep reading down the line. So we need to be able to go to a privileged mode. So looking down this list, enable says turn on privilege commands. Enable changes the prompt. I'm actually going to do exit. I'm going to do that a different way. If I do EN and hit tab, it will tab it out. If I do E and hit tab, it doesn't like that. That is because it doesn't know if we want enable or exits. If we do EN, only one command starts with EN. So we can hit tab and it will accept it. One last thing we could do is if we do EN, again, if that's the only command that starts with EN, we can actually just hit enter and it also accepts it. So there's multiple different ways to do this, so I did want to point that out. So we've now done step 2 task A. We went from our user exec mode to our privileged exec mode, or privileged mode, or exec mode, depending on what book you're reading. So we want to do some show commands. I'm going to do a question mark. These are all the commands we can do underneath our privileged exec mode. Notice there's a lot more. One of them is show. If you're never sure what the command is, question mark your friend, or if you want to see if there's more details, if you do space question mark, you can always see show space when you use the question mark, what comes after show. And here's all the next lines or next pieces of information that go with show. We are doing show running configuration. Again, there's only one R, so if I do R tab, it auto completes it. Alright, so here it built our configuration. Notice it says more. If we hit spacebar, we get more of it. Alright, so now we can look through all of this. Alright, here's where we issued the show command. Here is our encrypted password. It currently says no service. That means it's not working. Host name is called router. License, that's the license file and a serial number. We have gigabit Ethernet 00, gigabit Ethernet 01, serial 000, serial 001, fast Ethernet 010, fast Ethernet 0/1/1, fast Ethernet 0/1/2, fast Ethernet 0/1/3. There are 4 fast Ethernets. There are 2 gigabit Ethernets. There are 2 serial interfaces. What is the range of value shown in the VTY line? There are 0 to 4, so that 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a total of 5 virtual terminals that we can connect to. So that's kind of how we read this. We're going to get more in depth with the configuration, but again, now just an overview. Alright, so display the current contents of NVRAM. If the device started up, what are we going to see? Show show startup. Currently, there is no startup configuration. So that means if we restart, it's going to load a default blank configuration. You'll notice all of this, nothing's really configured per se. Clock rates, but no IP addresses. So there's not a lot of configuration done. So why does the router respond with startup configuration not present? That's because currently there is no saved startup configuration. Alright, part 2, configure and verify the initial router configuration. So configure the initial settings. We want to configure R1 as the host name. Host name R1. It doesn't understand the command. That's because we're not in an area where we can configure this. We need to be in the global configuration, so configure terminal, and now we can do host name R1. Commands can only be issued in certain locations. Alright, next command. Banner. Question mark. We want to do a configure message of the day. Unauthorized access is strictly prohibited. So banner, MOTD, space, question mark. It says line, and it specifically says a delimiter character. It just means a special character that's going to start and end the process. So if you use a quote, for example, inside your banner you can't use a quote, because whatever character you start with, you have to end with that. So quotes are not normally one that you want to do. Also, normally do a banner that is appropriate. Reason I say that is I've dealt with clients that did a weed flag or other flowers or things like that, and well, there was a hack, and turns out when we went to court, the judge threw it out. There wasn't a proper banner. There was nothing saying to restrict access. So you do need to be careful with your banner. Encrypt all plain text passwords. All right. One thing I want to point out, this guy right here, service password encryption. That encrypts the passwords. It also wants us to use an unencrypted password, Cisco, and a encrypted password, it's a secret, and a console password, let me in. So we have a little bit more. So enable, we want password, this will be plain text, Cisco. Enable secret, it's a secret, and it wants us to do a console. So not that, we want console. Well, how do we do a console? I don't see console here. Well, a console actually is a terminal line. So we would do console question mark, and we only have a single console, so sometimes the numbering is weird. Sometimes they start with 1, sometimes they start with 0. So here the console 0 is actually the first console. Notice the command now says configure TAC line. That just means it's a sub configuration portion of this question mark. We can now see all the commands done underneath the line console 0. And we can see setting a password is definitely one of them. So password, let me in. For completeness sake, I always do login. That enables password checking. What is funny is it doesn't tell you to do that. But the score went from 80 to 90 when I did log in. Alright, let's verify the initial setting on R1. What command do you use? So if we want, we could go all the way back to our exec mode, show running configuration. We can now see password encryption is turned on, host name is R1, R2 enabled passwords. Even though this was saved as plain text, this guy right here actually encrypts it. We have not set any interfaces or anything like that. Line console 0. Here is the password again because we turned on the service. This is protected now. Here's the banner. So exit the current console session until you see the R1 con 0. So just keep tapping exit till you get here. When we tap enter, notice there's our banner. Here's our login verification. This is going to be our console. First one is our console. Let me in. It's not typing, but it did accept the characters. Alright, we've done that. Why should every router have the banner of the day? Again, legality. Enter the password necessary to return to the privilege exec mode. So enable. This is going to be either Cisco or it's a secret. Notice it does not, I'm typing Cisco, it does not like that. It's a secret. That one worked. Why would the enable secret password allow access to the privilege mode and the enable password no longer? That's because the most secure version is what's going to be acceptable. Since we enabled two passwords, one plain text, one encrypted, it's going to take the higher level protected password. Also, if you look at this, secret 5, password 7, this actually has a lower score, and here the lower the number the better. If you configured any more passwords on the router, are they displayed in the configuration file as plain text or encrypted? Any additional password is going to be protected because we turned on the service for password encryption. Alright, last section, part 3, save the configuration. You have configured the initial settings on R1, now back up the data. What command did we do? What's the shortest ambiguous version of the command? What command to display the contents of NVRAM? Copy. Running configuration. Startup configuration. Tap enter. There we go. So what command? Copy, running configuration, startup configuration. It wants to know what's the shortest. If I do COP and hit tab, copy takes it over. Copy. Startup. So if I did ST and hit tab, it accepts it. So ST. So copying. Oh, my bad. I should have started with running. Sorry. Running. RU. Yes, it does. R. So cop R ST. So the shortest unambiguous version is cop RST, and that stands for copy, running configuration, startup configuration. Which command displays the contents of NVRAM? Show startup configuration. You'll notice show ST, not good enough. STA, not good enough. STAR, it is good enough. And there we go. Show startup configuration allows us to see it. We are at completion 100. However, we've not finished all of this, so I'm going to run through the rest of it. Even though the lab is now complete, I want to at least walk through the rest of it. Verify all the parameters are configured and recorded. If not, analyze the output. Again, you can always click check results. We do have a completion of 100%, so we are good there. Step 2, optional. Save the startup configuration file to flash. Alright. I'm going to tap enter a few times. Show flash. There are currently 3 files in flash. 2 XML and our operating system, which is a bin file. Save the startup configuration to a file using the following command. We're going to copy the startup configuration, question mark. I can copy it to flash, FTP, running config, SCP, or TFTP. This part is flash, so I'll do flash, hit enter again, and it's now saved. Let's verify with show flash. And now we have a 4th file, our startup config. So we have now completed the lab. I'm going to click on check results, and everything is completed. If you have any questions, thoughts, concerns, please reach out. Thank you.
If you have any questions or anything, please feel free to reach out. Again, with this material, being able to ask questions and discuss some of the topics in the lecture help build long-term retention, so do not be afraid to communicate with this topic. Again, I'm here if you need anything. Thank you.